My vision is just to keep doing it and keep doing it as good as I can and keep getting better at it. It's really just trying to be inspired by anything and everything. A stand-up, you tell a joke and you know right away whether it works or not. I'm not gonna pretend like I wouldn't like to make a living out of this. Of course, why not? But I do feel like for me, I don't want to make money my main priority.
Yeah.
Because I think once you do that, you start making decisions that compromise your arts, and I don't want to go down that route.
Welcome back to the Uncensored podcast. Another week. We're getting back on track now after the slight disaster at Halloween. I've moved back off of my dodgy laptop. And we've got our first guest. Annoyingly, Michael can't be here today, which is a shame, but we've got the wonderful YouTuber, Twitch streamer, and stand-up comedian, Bummy Hazan, or as you might know him, Bandit Haze. Bummy, welcome on. It's boss to have you. It's really cool. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize I was the first guest, but oh, shit.
Yeah, no pressure.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
What's the rules? I should probably,
anything goes. It's uncensored for a reason. Anything goes.
Of course. I should. Yeah, of course. But yeah, no. Yeah, it's been. I mean, you know, lockdown and pandemic and everything that's happened there. It's definitely not been ideal to say the least. But you know, just trying to do the best. To try to do the best I can with what I have, as always, and just trying to work through it. But yeah, man.
I was gonna say, sort of, obviously, it's still not over yet. There's still a second lockdown going on now. There's still a lot going on. I think a lot of people sort of had the misconception that it's probably easier for people like yourself who are doing sort of that kind of thing where as an influencer, you can sort of work from home. How's it affected you? Because obviously you're streaming, you're still doing your sketches and stuff, but motivation obviously is hard to come by at the moment. How's it affected you and how you work?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely affected me. I mean, it's like pretty much everything shut down. So, like stand-up comedy, I had a few stand-up gigs booked, which all got cancelled. Every single last one of them, you know. And so you try to figure out new ways of doing things. A lot of people did the live Instagram live things. I did try that as well, which I thought it went okay, but it's just not the same, you know. So definitely affected that. And as far as say content goes, it's just, I mean, I guess technically it's unaffected in the sense that you could still produce and pull out content, but as you said before, like motivation and just trying to get stuff done. Of course, you still got bills to pay while doing it all as well. So it's just trying to find the gusto, is that the word to use, just to keep going and to be inspired by, and trying to take a situation as like this and trying to find a humor in it, you know, trying to find where you can make somebody laugh or smile or just go or something.
Definitely. I was going to say, sort of, has it given you anything in terms of ideas? Obviously there's certainly a lot to take the piss out of, and you're pretty good at coming up with sort of comedy that is relevant and fits in with what's going on. Have you sort of found that it's given you positives and ideas as well as the struggles that come with it?
What do you mean, like ideas for comedy or
just
in general?
sort of ideas for sketches and stuff? Obviously, you know, with everything going on, sort of things like your En's Uber driver, which is really funny.
Right.
Has it sort of has it kind of given you ideas for sketches for that and that kind of thing? Has it helped out with at all?
Yeah, no, definitely. I've definitely done a few sketches with the driver character, Uber driver from the end, and you know, there's a few things that have been that inspired some sketches there, and I guess a few other sketches that I've done outside of that that have been inspired by, you know, things like the what's it called? You know, when everyone is panic buying. So I did a sketch based around that. You know, with a toilet roll going. I did a sketch based around. I can't even remember right now. You know, but the whole Black Lives Matter thing, which I know that technically not part of the lockdown, but just happened during that period. So I did a sketch based around that when it came over when it happened with was it Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess just in general, just trying to find things that are going on, whether it's directly related to the pandemic situation or something that's happening just anyway, and seeing what's what people are looking at. And I mean, it's one of those things where I generally don't try to only go for, say, the trending topics, right?
Yeah.
Because I do feel, I mean, I've been on YouTube for years, and anytime you just go for all the trending stuff, yeah, you could potentially get a lot of views and things like that, but just keeping up with it can be draining.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I don't necessarily only go for just the big stuff, but certainly, yeah, I'm trying to keep an eye out as to what people are looking at and see if I can come up with something within those realms.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you are, as you say, you have been on YouTube for a while. You sort of done a lot of different kind of things, of
Mm,
sketches and stuff and that kind of thing. And it is hard to keep up to the pace because everything moves so fast. It is
right.
very difficult to sort of keep up with the pace of what's going on. Obviously, you've done that with the Twitch streaming as well. Twitch has got really big over the last
Mm.
year or so, and you've moved over there. How have you found doing that? Obviously, it's different to YouTube in a way because you have to keep people entertained without
Yeah.
the gift of editing. How have you found doing Twitch streams?
Yeah, Twitch has been good. I mean, I would say that I haven't done much Twitch lately, just
Yeah.
various reasons for coming up.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, it's been good. I mean, I've been on Twitch, I guess, kind of on and off for some years now, actually. But yeah, it's enjoyable. I think with things like Twitch, it's a lot to do with just finding something that you enjoy doing and just doing that.
Yeah, yeah,
And there is, I mean, well, that's one side of Twitch. I guess that's more my side of Twitch, I should say. I mean, depending on your background and where you're coming from, if you're like, say, an esports superstar where you already got like a massive following of people, then you're not really concerned about that. But I think for most people,
hmm
um if you don't already have like some big following already, going onto something like Twitch, um yeah, I feel like it's finding something that you enjoy doing it. And the way Twitch has evolved over the years, where it started as predominantly just gaming, and then
yeah,
moved into what they call it just chatting for a while.
hmm
So no, they called it IRL for a while. Then they called it just chatting, but then they've got like, now they've got music sections, they've got art sections, they've got loads of different sections. I think they've got cooking sections now.
yeah,
So they've got so many different areas where people can turn a camera on, start live streaming into that field. So it's not just, although gaming is still their big business, they're the biggest part of their business.
yeah,
There's so many different things you could do in it. So I feel like if you're coming into Twitch, yeah, find something that you enjoy doing, find something that you can do for potentially hours on end,
mm.
and just do that,
Yeah, yeah,
and trying to worry about all the analytics and the algorithms and the all that stuff, because that's it's a headache and it'll just drive you crazy.
yeah. No, definitely. I think a lot of people who sort of do end up, even if they don't go big, it's sort of people enjoy watching people having fun themselves. That's sort of the
Right.
enjoyment aspect. I do feel that a lot of people sort of take enjoyment from seeing other people take enjoyment. So yeah, definitely doing stuff you enjoy. Obviously, you already know how to sort of keep an audience because you've done stand up as well. What sort of how do you? I guess what I'm saying is how do you sort of it's all three take very different skills, the stand up,
Mhm.
the Twitch and the YouTube. Is there like a common ground for maintaining an audience and keeping their interest, or do you have to really change your approach to each one?
Um, I mean, yeah, there's always going to. I mean, yeah, there are differences in how you do things. Otherwise, they just literally just be the same thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
um, I think in for me at least anyway, it just comes down to just being honest with myself,
Hmm.
being true to myself. And if I'm writing for a stand-up sketch, I mean, yeah, of course, you're trying to think about what other people might find funny, right? That's a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
part of
of
it.
course.
But yeah, it's about, first and foremost, I need to find it funny, and
Mhm.
I need to feel like this is something that I want to say. And similar with the sketches as well. You're trying to think of the things that I find funny, and hope that other people find funny as well.
Yeah,
Twitch, I guess the slight difference there is that because it's live, you're not necessarily preparing a whole lot. I mean, you can maybe do like a little pre preparation. Yeah.
We'll go with it.
Yeah, that.
We'll take it.
Yeah, so you can maybe do a little bit of that in terms of, okay, these are things that I might want to talk about, but ultimately you are just going off the top of your head at any given moment in terms of what you're saying and what you're doing. If you're gaming, somebody asks you a question and you're trying to answer it, and so it is very much just as it comes out. And
Yeah.
of course, the danger there is that you could say something completely inappropriate.
Yeah.
And for small streamers, not too much of an issue. People generally don't even notice or don't care. Of course, once you start getting to big streamer area, then everybody's got their eyes on you, and somebody's screenshotted it already, and it's all over Twitter, and so there's that. But for myself, it's just like I try not to worry too much about, say, offending people.
Yeah.
For a few reasons. One is, I guess the main reason is that I believe that if you're going to do anything worthwhile in this world, you have to be willing to risk pissing people off.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that you go out with the intention of pissing people off, but you accept that that is a possibility out of the things you could do. Somebody somewhere isn't going to like some of the things that you say, and that's just life.
Yeah.
So I think that we think too much about somebody might not like this or then you end up not doing anything, and eventually you do anything long enough, one day you're gonna do something wrong. It's just the nature of it. Nobody's perfect and nobody gets it right all the time, so it's just understanding that these things can happen and most likely will happen eventually. So I try not to worry too much about that, and just do it.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, and deal with it as it comes.
Exactly. Yeah. That's, to be honest with you, that's one of the best things about your YouTube. It's quite hard. Obviously, as channels get bigger, they do find themselves censoring themselves more. And what I like about your sketches is there's a real sort of anything goes, it doesn't matter policy, which makes it more enjoyable to watch because there's a bit more of reality in it. Sort of going back to the Uber driver from the ends, how much of sort of that is based on sort of obviously you've been an Uber driver yourself.
You trying to say, yeah? You trying to say, yeah? Listen, yeah? Don't even yeah, so it's kind of an extension of myself. Yeah, as you said, I still do the driving as like I say, got bills to pay, so you got to do that.
Exactly.
So I do that, and some things that happened during that have inspired some of the sketches. Also, the character himself is, I'm from an area that might be called the ends.
Yeah.
So where I grew up, you see a lot of colloquialisms being used, like slang being used, and people getting into fights, people talking tough, all that kind of stuff, and you kind of grew up around that. And myself personally, I didn't get involved with a lot of the urban culture, mostly because I was just at home playing video games a lot. But certainly it was something that I grew up around, and something I learned to kind of navigate as going through life. And so, yeah, the character's kind of based a little bit on myself, but then exaggerated into, well, what it is.
Yeah. When it comes to sort of coming up with ideas and stuff, and what is sort of do you have like a process where you sit down, maybe you have a select time where you've got to come up with ideas, or does it just sort of come to you naturally, organically, and you go with the flow that way?
A little bit of both. I'll say more the latter, though, in terms of anytime I've tried to kind of sit down and just write something, it can happen, but I find that more often than not, you're just kind of sitting there like overthinking stuff. I found a lot of the times, at least some of my favorite ones I've done, at least anyway, usually just come to me as like, I don't know, somebody said something, and it's like, wow, that's a good idea. And, just trying to remember to write it down later. Or, just various things you just kind of see, or maybe something that, like sometimes things happen and I don't even think about it. And then maybe a week later, something happens and it reminds me of this. And it's like, oh, actually, that could be a good idea for a sketch, So it's really just trying to be inspired by anything and everything and just letting it come as it comes. And sometimes you have your times where you do sit down and you can sometimes write stuff and just kind of get it out. But yeah, I think for the most part, at least for me anyway, yeah, it's just as it comes.
Yeah, yeah. How long have you been doing YouTube now? Because it has been quite a while. It's a few years.
Yeah, I mean, I think my first ever YouTube channel.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know which year it was, but it would have been not long after YouTube started. I think YouTube started in
Wow.
2006,
Yeah,
so it would have been maybe 2007 ish, maybe around about then.
yeah.
And it wasn't much. It was just like you set up a channel, and YouTube was very new at the time, so
Yeah.
it was one of these things where you just set up a channel, and you just like post random videos because it was a cool new thing. I wasn't really thinking of being on YouTube at I don't think anybody was at that time really.
No,
But it's
yeah.
just like the cool new thing that was at the time, and I just post like random videos of like responses, and I guess a few poetry videos as well I posted at the time.
Hmm.
YouTube was a much different landscape back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, definitely.
Very different. I mean, to be fair, it's about as different as it is the same, in the
Hmm.
sense that a lot of videos back then was one person talking to a camera in their room.
Yeah.
And although you watch a video now, like for example, let's say Philip DeFranco, you got
Hmm.
one person in a room talking to a camera. The difference between now and then is that back then it was literally one person like doing the editing, one person doing the writing, one person doing
Yeah, yeah.
all that kind of stuff. Now you got like researchers, you've got an editor, you've got a producer, you've got
Hmm.
all these kind of team behind you that you don't see. Um, so yeah, as much as it's changed, there's still that kind of one person, one camera element to it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this is about 2006, 2007, and then I think sometime around 2000. What year are we in? I guess around 2008, 9 is
Mm.
when I set up the channel that I have right now.
Yeah.
Um,
That's quite a while.
and actually maybe a bit later than that. I can't remember. It might have been a bit later, maybe 2010. But yeah,
Hmm.
the channel that I have now was set up right about then, and that's when I was kind of like, okay, I want to post videos. And I wasn't really entirely sure what I wanted to post, but I knew I wanted to post videos fairly consistently,
Yeah.
and just started off posting mostly like film analysis videos,
Hmm.
which eventually kind of drifted into me taking a piss out of movies. And that eventually kind of drifted into me taking a piss out of a lot of different things. And
Hmm.
then I was kind of like, you know what, I like telling jokes. I've always liked telling jokes. So how about I do comedy? How about
Yeah,
I try
yeah.
that?
Yeah, well,
How about I
it
try
does
that?
work well. It works really well. Sort of, you do a lot of comedy, and then occasionally you will do it's a real talk video where you sit down, you'll talk about something going on
Mm.
whenever it sort of comes up. When it comes to filming those, do you find it easier because there's no pre-planned material, or is it harder because it isn't pre-planned? You're just talking about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, with those, the technicalities of it, yeah, it's easy. You just sit in front of
Hmm.
the camera, you talk, right?
Hmm.
In terms of the topics, though, depending on what I'm talking about, it can be difficult
Yeah.
sometimes, and especially I think because one of the things is that I think about is, I mean, I don't how to describe it, because on one hand it's like you want to be real,
Hmm.
but at the same time you don't want to be an arsehole.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes as you're talking, as things come out, you kind of have to look back and think, okay, did that come out the way I intended it to come out?
Hmm.
um is that really what I want to say? Can I word that better? In that sort of thing. And on one hand, you don't really want to be overthinking it because you don't want to feel like you're just censoring yourself, but at the same time it's like, if I put it out in this form, in the way it is, you know, that could unnecessarily cause that can necessarily like cause some kind of issue which detracts away from what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So there's that part of it where it's like, especially if you ever talk about potentially sensitive subjects, then you, you have to kind of think about, okay,
Yeah.
how am I wording this, and what is it that I'm trying to say, and should I even be saying it? That's another thing as well. We all have
Yeah.
opinions, and we all have thoughts on various things. Right, wrong, good, bad. But and although we're all entitled to our opinions, that doesn't necessarily mean that all our opinions need to be shared.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, exactly. That was the
yeah.
interesting thing I think about YouTube when it started as a platform was it initially started as a place where you really could express your opinions to some quite extreme levels. There's some really
Mm,
extreme content on YouTube earlier on. And then sort of the more it blew up, the irony of it was is that people enjoyed seeing creators talk in an uncensored way. but equally, as more attention was turned towards it, they had to censor themselves more. So it was sort of the irony of it.
Mm.
I suppose, as in a way, that's sort of the advantage of what you're doing. Obviously, the disadvantage is the obvious. You have to work, as you say, because you've got to pay the bills. You don't
Yeah.
get the money that some of the big creators get, but you do get sort of a little more freedom in terms of getting to share your opinions on stuff.
Yeah.
I guess when you started it, what was sort of the vision for your channel? What was sort of, when did you first go, this is something I want to do? And when you did, sort of, what were you thinking? Where did you want to take it?
I'll take it as far as I can take it, you
Yeah,
know. So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I'm not gonna pretend like I wouldn't like to make a living out of this. Of course, why not?
mm-hmm.
But I do feel like, for me, I don't want to make money my main priority,
Yeah,
because I think once you do that, you start making decisions that compromise your arts, and I don't want to go down that route.
mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's just taking it as far as I can take it. I think a friend of mine said once that everybody has an audience. You just need to find that audience. So for me, it's about finding the audience and finding the people who enjoy my comedy, enjoy all the other stuff that I do as well, and trying to reach as many of them as I can.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just got to be
Finding
in
the
it for the long
audience.
haul. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. Just keep going and wait. Is it sort of, obviously you do the stand up as well? Is it the same kind of thing with that? You just have the aspiration to see how far you can take it, and or is that more of a hobby rather than a serious?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, of course, but anything you do, you want to do it as best as you can.
Hmm.
I would say, though, I'm more passionate about the video creation than the stand up.
Yeah.
But the stand up, I feel, helps me with the videos. In that, with when you do a video, you put it out.
Hmm.
People might say they like it and they comment and they might say, "Oh, that's really funny," this, that, and another, which is great.
Hmm.
But you wait for that.
Yeah,
With
yeah.
stand up, you tell a joke and you know right away whether it works or not.
Well,
you know,
you've
and
read my mind on the next question, to be honest, because the next question was obviously the difficulty with stand up is it doesn't always land well. Have you
right, exactly,
had
exactly.
shows where it hasn't quite landed right, or the audience have been a little bit stiff?
Yeah, definitely. I've had a few times where people just didn't laugh. And it's funny because that sometimes you can tell a joke in a place and it goes over great, and then you tell that same
Hmm.
joke somewhere else and it's like crickets. you know.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, there's been a few times where people didn't laugh. People got heckled once, and it's for me, it's just part of the learning process. It's very easy to look at a situation like that, and I've seen this happen where people kind of just lose their shit and go mad, start shouting at the crowd, "How dare you not love?" That kind of, you
yeah,
love
yeah.
everybody else, so how you not love it? I've seen that, and it's like, you know what, I 100% get when you try anything and it doesn't go as well as you think it
Hmm.
might, that's not a nice feeling to
Yeah.
go through. But at the same time, it's like they're under no obligation to find you funny.
Hmm.
So for me, it's just like trying to learn from each situations, whether it's a joke that is funny but maybe needs to be worked on a little bit and maybe just told in a slightly different way,
Yeah,
or whether the
yeah,
joke's just not funny at all. I need to scrap it, and maybe only I find it funny.
yeah,
And that's
yeah,
just is what it is. Maybe
yeah.
maybe I'm the only one laughing, and okay, cool. I'll tell the jokes myself then. That's fine. But yeah, it's just trying to learn from each situation and yeah, take it from there.
Yeah, I think that is the difficulty, is that comedy is, it's not like another job. It is so subjective, where what you put out,
Mm,
as you said before, your audience is your audience, and you might have an audience who don't find what you're saying funny. So it is, you really do end up putting yourself out there. When it sort of doesn't land and it doesn't quite go as well, how do you how do you respond? Obviously, it's difficult to respond in the moment. What sort of
mm,
the thinking process? Sort of, you've made a couple jokes, they haven't landed right. The audience is sort of looking a little bit awkward. What
yeah.
thinking process at that point? Because it is difficult. It's difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, the most ideal thing to do is to try and come up with like a really witty statement, or like a really cool
Hmm.
comeback or something like that. But even that could be difficult at times because you don't always know how the response is going to go, and then because you don't know how they're going to respond, it's a difficult thing to prepare for.
Yeah.
Over time, I think once you do enough shows and you get booed enough times, you start to develop ways. And I've seen people come back, have some really cool comebacks.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm not quite there yet when it doesn't go well for me. So I do try. I try to have a witty comeback,
Mm-hmm.
but I usually just carry on. I think for me at the moment, it's if I can't think of something in about I don't know, like 2 seconds or whatever, then okay, let me just carry on and just go like that just didn't happen.
Carry
And
on.
try to keep the energy going.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can pull it back. Sometimes your next joke lands better and you can kind of pull it back. So
Yeah. Well, we've done a bit on sort of your YouTube and all of that. Anyone who watches this podcast knows that we are big users of Reddit for content. When all else fails, we turn to Reddit. So I've had a little look at some would you rathers and some unpopular opinions, which we do quite a lot. And
right.
I thought it'd be cool to get your take on it. So
Cool.
First one, fairly relevant. You can have 500k on YouTube or Twitch or 2 mil on Twitter. Which one are you taking and why?
Oh, what are we talking about? Followers, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'll say 500 on Twitch or YouTube, or 2 million on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting question, and I mean, I'm leaning towards YouTube because I'm on that platform more, right? That being said,
it's 2 million. It's a lot of people.
It is, but you know what? It's more that I feel like there's a lot of nuance to these things,
mm-hmm.
in a sense that you could have a ton of people following you, and doesn't necessarily mean you have a ton of people following you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, definitely.
There's like boss accounts. There's people who don't necessarily follow you just because they see other people following you, or don't necessarily care about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
There's people who followed you a long time ago and kind of given up and just didn't bother unfollow you. So there's a lot in there where it's like, okay, if you talk about 2 million active followers or 500,000 active followers on YouTube,
yeah,
I guess the 2 million is a better one. But if it comes down to it, I'd rather have 100 active followers than 500,000 inactive followers. Because I'd rather have people who are engaged with what I'm doing and want to see what I'm doing, rather than they're just there because they feel some kind of obligation to, that doesn't interest me. I'm like, okay, if we can do something, if it interests what I'm doing, cool.
Well, on sort of the back of that, because with YouTube you can see
500,000 active followers is awesome. By the way, subscribe.
I was gonna say, for those who don't know, I'll put the link to his YouTube, his Twitch, his Instagram, all down in the description. Go check him out. The content is amazing, and you don't want to miss out on it. So go check him out and subscribe. With sort of subscribers, you can see on YouTube, you'll have the YouTube Studio and that kind of thing, so you can see your analytics. And obviously, sometimes things do better, things do worse. Do you sort of pay attention to them, or do you kind of try not to? Because obviously, it can be quite difficult if you say spend a lot of time on a really good sketch that you're really proud of, put it out, and it gets 10 views in the first 12 hours. It can be really sort of difficult to take.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult thing at times because going purely from an artistic perspective, you want to put something out and just let the world do what the world does and not really think about it too much. But then the other side of it is, if you are trying to reach as many people as you can, then you need to know what's doing well and what isn't. So it's like, okay, on one hand, I feel like I should be looking at the analytics and pay attention to what they're doing. At the same time, I feel like I want to completely ignore it and just do whatever. There's always that kind of balance to strike, and I'm sure I don't always get it right. There are times I probably spend too much time looking at analytics, and times where I don't spend enough time looking at analytics and trying to figure it out. But it definitely is a difficult thing to navigate, because the temptation, of course, is when you see a video do really, really well, the temptation, of course, is to keep doing more of that video. But then artistically, it's like, that you don't want to just do the same videos over and over again. You do want to have some kind of you want to have a range and try new things. But then doing that, it's like, if everybody subscribes because they like this one type of video, and then your next video isn't like that,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, it probably doesn't get the views as much. So
yeah.
yeah.
So a bit of both, yeah. That makes sense. We'll go back to the would you rather's. Little less of a big decision here. Would you rather
It's
never
always a big
bite?
decision.
It's always this. Well, in a way, this one is. Would you rather never bite your tongue / cheek again, or never stub your toe again? I spent a lot of time thinking about this one when I read it. I spent a lot of time.
You know what? The thing is, my tongue is probably. I mean, I don't know what the size is, but my guess is my tongue is probably larger than most people's because I tend to bite it quite a lot when I'm eating.
Yeah.
So that is quite a nuisance actually. But then stubbing your toe is probably more painful
I
for a
think
longer
so.
period of time. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with the toe.
I went with the
Yeah,
toe. I
go
think
with the toe.
there's just enough dodgy furniture in the household to
Yeah.
maybe go with that one.
Yeah.
I guess sort of just to sort of wrap things up and sort of as a kind of finish. Obviously, as we've said, you know, your channel is going to be there. What sort of for everyone to subscribe to? What's kind of the vision for the next year or so? In a year's time, where do you want your channel and your stand up and that kind of thing? Hopefully, when we can start getting back towards normal, where do you want it to be? What's the vision?
Well, you know what, to be honest, I'm not sure there is going back to normal at this point. I think whatever happens next, vaccine or no vaccine, I'm not sure we're going back to normal. But yeah, any kind of we'll see what happens. But my vision is just to keep doing it, and keep doing it as good as I can, and keep getting better at it. Well, hopefully I'm getting better at it. I mean, this sound a bit. hopefully people think I'm getting better, and you know I am getting better, and I'll keep getting better. But yes, just to keep doing it, to keep putting out the comedy videos. I have a couple of other channels as well, which I'm working on. So yeah, keep on doing those and trying to get those as good as I can. And really just keep being creative. I think when it comes down to it, my biggest passion is creativity and just finding different ways to express that creativity. So I've done that through like script writing in the past. I've done that through poetry for a long time. I've always liked telling jokes and stuff, but more recently, in terms of being creative, that's in comedy. That's a more recent thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always tried to look at ways of express myself. So yeah, keep doing that and keep being open to learning. Keep being open to people and different ways of thinking and different perspectives, and just trying to keep being inspired and putting that out into the world for people to enjoy or gain something from or be inspired by, hopefully, or maybe just like say this is shit and then walk on. I don't know, but just something that's there, for to say that this is something that I've done.
Yeah,
there you go, world. What do you think of it?
Definitely, yeah. No, that's boss. And as I say, you can help with that vision by checking him out in the description below. Bommy, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me, dude.
Very much. And for all the viewers, we'll be back next week. We'll have Michael on next week and then probably have something else to talk about. But until then, we will see you next time.